let me find the exact quote. Who should make the final decision in the household, being as men are expected to protect and die first for that household?
Men. Easy.
What does that mean, final decision about what? Anything?
When it comes to bigger decisions,
Bigger
when
decisions
like
in the
directing
household.
the family and the future of the family, I can wholeheartedly think that men should have that final decision.
Yeah. And in my house, I'll tell you, it doesn't work like that. How it works is we both come to the table on big decisions. Now, there's certain things that I don't care as much about as he does. There's certain things that he doesn't care that much about, but I do. For example, if we're going to go on a vacation, I'd be picky about the hotel, but probably not as picky about the location. So it's a give and take. Yeah. But every big decision that affects the family unit, we sit down and we really talk it through until we're both comfortable with that decision, and that's how it goes down. It's not a my way or the highway type of situation in my house. I would never want that, and I think there's going to be a lot of women that don't feel comfortable with that dynamic.
I don't think it's a my way or highway decision. It's just more like some men predict things different than women.
I think that if you're a woman and you're married to a man, you should respect his ability to make decisions, and you should trust that he's going to make those decisions with your best interest. And I always like to say, I think that for efficiency purposes, one leader is the best way to go. When I was on the rugby team, I was a wing. So like I'm the guy that scores all the tries. And even though I score all the tries, the captain of the team is the captain because he has the most experience. Now I could be there and I could go, hey, captain, I see this guy. He's a little bit weaker. I think I could run around him. I think I could score. Maybe we should dish the ball out to me. Him being the captain and having more experience, he can say, no, I know that guy. I played against him. He's just baiting you. He's actually really good. Or he can say, you're right. Let's make that decision. So I believe that women are the neck and men are the head. So women can have a say in what direction we go, but you should trust the man to make the final decision because you trust his decision-making skills because of the results that he's shown.
Nobody is saying that a woman cannot lead. But still, I believe most women might make a decision with more feelings thinking about their kid. Because many times, me and my wife, we had to make a decision. She decided on feelings, and it also affected the kids in such a negative way that one time she told me, why doesn't my kid listen to me when I say no? I said, you said no 5 times without any result. I say no, and if they don't listen, something is going to happen. I don't need to touch them, but they will definitely go on time out for 50 minutes.
What if he doesn't have, on that particular issue, the experience, though? What if it's about something where she's lived in a bunch of places, or she grew up in a family where X, Y, and Z happened that gives a lens that's really important, where she may be better fit to make that particular decision? Do you think that could happen?
Yeah, but I think that she can propose the decision, and the man can say based on what he knows if that's a good decision or not. And he should also trust, if you got a good leader, he's also going to trust you too. So like the captain of the team, he knows that I score. He knows my capability. He knows that how much I know about the game. So if he thinks that I'm making the right decision, he's going to say, yeah, let's do that. Especially if he knows that he hasn't been, say if he wasn't paying attention to what's been going on or whatever it may be, he might say, yeah, go ahead and do it. Let's do that, because that's the best. I think that would be a good decision based on what you've presented to me. But I think that when it comes to the final decision in any kind of big situation, men should make it, because men tend to think more on logic instead of emotion.
Yeah, it's a big decision. I mean, you can talk about even a small decision. I remember I was talking to my wife about handling the baby, and she was like, I'm mommy, you have to be careful, bada beam, bada boo, whoa, with the baby.
Watch your mouth, young man.
I was like, yo, if you don't let me try, but you won't be involved further, you have to let me try. I'm not going to drop the baby, but I'm going to do some mistakes. I'm going to miss the poop. I have to lose more towel. But you need to let somebody do something. And over time, if they produce a good result, that means you can trust me more. Now my wife trusts me way more than she thought. Adelo, remember to subscribe.
¿Por qué?
So that would be the one area, I think, where you and I disagree a little bit.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I do think that women factor in emotion more, that we're both in agreement on. But I'm a firm believer in a partnership. So
Oh no, I like traditional marriage. I like husband wife.
I want husband-wife too.
Yeah,
traditional
we ain't
in
raising
that
no
sense.
babies, and
So for
it's
me,
a thing people do.
I think that there are a lot of women who, and it's interesting because it doesn't rub me wrong that you say that, because I'm also a firm believer that everyone should build the family structure that's comfortable for them. You know, if that works for you in your house, and great, you know, and if it doesn't work in my house, that's okay too. But there is a large segment of the female population that will hear that wrong. They'll want to say, well, I want to say, a marriage is supposed to be a partnership. And if we're making a big decision, for example, as to where to move the family, I want to be with someone who wants me to have a say. So that's one area where we'll disagree, where I feel like that mutual respect in a relationship for me comes from an acknowledgement on both sides that each person's voice matters in those big decisions.
Maybe it's just me, but personally, in my anecdotal life right now, most men that I know that might be in the leadership position are controlled by their wife, because the wife has to be comfortable, or generally the relationship doesn't last. Like, I know a man right now, I asked him, "You're going to move?" He says, "Yeah." And how do you feel about it? It's like, well, we're managing, but as long as she's happy, I'm happy. And the amount of times I hear that quote of men that are supposed to be in a happy relationship, you realize he is happy if she's happy, because he knows there is a different effect if she ain't happy, even if she's working or not in that relationship. And it makes me realize a lot of people don't take it in consideration that many men, they don't live a life believing they have a say. They live a life that they need to always give something to feel something, or at least be around somebody.
Okay. So PBD, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you work under PBD. If you went up to PBD and said you had an idea for something and he said he didn't want to do it because he didn't think it was a good idea, or if he said he did want to do it, you trust him to be able to make that decision, don't you?
Well, he's not technically my boss, actually. He's my partner.
Are you sure?
I find it hard when you justify like that, because it makes you feel different.
But that's a different dynamic. So I would always stray from comparing a marriage to a business arrangement.
Really?
That's something in business where it really depends. I mean, he's been doing this for longer than I have, and I would, in that instance, say, you know what,
Because
I'm going to give him.
trust his ability
I
to
do
make the
trust
decision.
him, or I wouldn't be here doing this partnership with him. But a marriage is not a business.
But then I'm going to start thinking, is a marriage a partnership, or is it a business? Because generally when you divorce, it feels like a business is separating, and nobody cares how it's going to get split, as long as it's equal, no matter how you start.
Why do you trust the decision do you trust the decision that he's going to make because you think that he knows more about it? Like he has a mind for it?
I think that I would be inclined probably to trust the decision for now, and feel it out and see. And if I still feel strongly and differently in a few months, go back to that table and say, this needs to change. Here's why. Let's give it a go. And we've had actually some of those discussions and had things change, let her try this out. Let's see how it goes, but I don't ever compare a marriage to a business. But go ahead.
But I'm just saying, like, so then if we both agree that men tend to make decisions logically.
I didn't say men, though. I said, you asked me about PBD.
No, I'm just saying in general. Earlier before we agreed that men tend to think of things logically while women tend to think of things more emotionally. When it comes to life decisions, which person do you think is going to be more likely to make the better decision? I would agree that the logic, because of the sense of the ability to rational more, or to use rationale more, is going to have better results in the long run. That's why I think for most people, that's the best way to do it. I don't think, maybe for not everybody, I don't know how people want to do their thing. But I think
it depends on the
it gets very dangerous when we start to say that you should just wing it and just do it what you feel, because a lot of girls are going to feel like they can make that decision because, like I said, when you're younger, you're told that you're right by everybody. But that doesn't mean that you're actually making the better decisions. And if you trust your man to be the leader because he's shown results, and I don't think that you should marry a man unless he's shown that he can be a leader and has shown results. I don't care what he's talking about, and I believe the same thing for my daughter. If you trust that man to make the decisions because you selected him as a husband, you should let him make the final decision. Now, that don't mean you can't propose something. That don't mean you can't even have a 45-55. But when it comes to the final decision, if the man is more likely to make it off rationale and experience, then I think that he should be the one that gets the final decision.
And then I decided to add this because I totally forgot this happened. It was my decision to tell my wife that I don't want her to stay at home, because I said in this current climate, we need 2 salaries these days because we can't depend on one. And I also told her the current job that she has is a totally time difference compared to mine. But I had the opportunity to grow, and I told her, you had to leave your job. And guess what? She didn't want to leave the job. She had to do another job that she didn't want to do. She used to work at a hospital as a translator, and I was working in IT and I was growing. She left the job, and guess what happened? I got sick. I can't work anymore. There's a great possibility right now that I have to go on disability because when I stress, my whole body paralyzed. I can't even speak like a normal person because I have MS. Guess what? Because she spoke so many languages as a translator at the hospital, she found a different job and now she manages contract for so many other countries by speaking so many languages. She speaks 8 and guess what? She even out-earns me. The point is, even still she wants me to make the decision. Not because I'm always right. It's because many decisions and suggestions that I have suggested while listening to her usually were very fruitful. And many times her decisions were beautiful in the feelings, but long term they didn't have a healthy effect. I'm just saying, men that think logically, that have experienced feelings, sometimes can understand certain things better because they base most things out of logic than feeling.
Yeah, that wouldn't work for me. That wouldn't work for me only because, and I understand what you're saying about logic and emotions and all that, and I tend to agree with you in the sense that I think emotions, like I said, do play a bigger role for women than they do for men, but decisions can be really complicated and aren't always about just logic versus emotion. Sometimes experience comes into play. Sometimes the life you've lived comes into play. Sometimes maybe you haven't communicated to someone what really is important to you in this decision for whatever reason. So
sometimes emotion even comes into play.
Sometimes emotion even comes
emotion
into
to
play
make a better decision.
The moment somebody starts speaking like that, when they agree with me on something, but at the same time they can disagree me on with that, then I'm like, why am I even talking to you? Is this apple poisonous? I don't know. It depends who put it there. Maybe a snake told you. Maybe there's a worm inside that is eating the poison. Maybe the apple is old. And I'm like, then I'm not gonna eat any apple.
Are you sure?
Like, you can tell me men are logical. Logical is a good decision. But if you trust people that are more logical, suddenly like, nah, maybe that's not the right decision.
Yeah, that wouldn't work for me. That wouldn't work for me only because, and I understand what you're saying about logic and emotions and all that. So what I just love is a dynamic where, and I think what most women would probably want is a man who feels comfortable saying, I'm really confident, I believe this is the right decision, but also says, how do you feel about it, babe? Like, where are you coming from?
Yeah.
What do you think? And if there is a strong disagreement about that particular decision, that there has to be a meeting of the minds in some way.
For majority of women, who do you think is more comfortable? Who do you think they're more comfortable with men making decisions? Like in terms of even dates, something as simple as dates.
Yes.
Do you think majority of women want men to
Yes.
say, wear this dress, we're going here?
No, not wear this dress. No,
Or
but we're
okay,
going here.
Okay, yeah, we're going here.
We're
meet
going here.
Meet me there at this time. Be very
Yeah.
assertive, right?
Yes, I do.
So wouldn't you be kind of undermining that thing that women tend to desire from men when you say that you don't want him to make the final decision? I think that most women, by and large, are happy with the man making those decisions if they can trust that he's making them with their best interest in mind,
Yeah.
and he's shown results.
So let me-
The thing that makes you feel sexy later is the thing that makes you feel unsexy. That's very confusing thing because you might step on a mine one day and then you're divorced.
Really?
Let me make that one modification, and then we're going to have to wrap because I just got an alert. I think there's a podcast in here after us today, but I could talk to you all day. But I think that what most women want is a man, again, who's comfortable making that decision and who is assertive and will, for example, pick a restaurant and say, hey, babe, I think we're going to go here tonight. This would be really, really great. But if she turns around and says, oh, I really want Chinese tonight. Okay, you know what? Who has that flexibility, and a man who wants her to have a seat at the table on those discussions.
Yeah.
A man who cares enough about her to care about what her vision is and what she sees and what she feels. So ultimately, they may wind up saying, you know what, babe, it's up to you. But they want to feel heard in those discussions.
Well, most of the men that I know usually say that. But I find it also odd you're talking about going to a restaurant. I think it would have been better if to talk about a topic like, should we buy this big house? Should we go on that gangster vacation? Because it feels good. And not think about the money in the pocket, right? Because that is what I see what causes usually the rift when wasting money or how they need to treat a kid. There is a disagreement, kata crash.
But they want to feel heard in those discussions and feel that their input is valuable to that man.
I think but that is the case though.
Not always.
Not always, but
and not always in those dynamics that you're describing.
Yeah.
Maybe in your case,
no,
for sure.
Not always, but
Yeah.
I think that, and that's again why I say you should choose a leader that you think has your best interest in mind and yada yada
A
yada.
partner. Choose a partner.
Yeah, well, I believe in husband and wife. I don't really believe in the partner.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but you said women are more emotional. So they make more emotional decisions. But they can also be logical, but still like a man for being assertive and direct. But once we are in a relationship or a marriage, That's a partnership. But these days it's such a dangerous topic, I had to let my wife fail many times for her to realize, maybe you are right.
Don't get me wrong, makosa kita bong. Buta fire na mi blonde, kush hash, purple skunk, criollo, colombici, jam jam, turloqueta, verdetta, welcome.